Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Dipayan Ghosh, and today we are talking about something that honestly makes a lot of people nervous every single time when it comes around. Mercury retrograde. Now, before I get into it, I want to say something clearly. Mercury retrograde is not the end of the world. It is not a period where your entire life falls apart. But it is a period where specific things go wrong in a specific and very predictable ways. And if you know what to expect and what to avoid, you can get through it with very little damage. Mercury stations retrograde on June 29, 2026, and it stays retrograde until July 23, 2026. That is 25 days. But here is something important that most people miss. The effects do not start on 29 June, they start earlier. The shadow period of this retrograde begins on June 12, and from June 12 onwards, you will start feeling the early signs of Mercury slowdown. Things that normally flow easily start getting a little sticky and little complicated. So today I am going to tell you everything what Mercury retrogrades actually is, what to avoid during 20 within these 25 days, and which signs need to be most careful, and what you can do to protect yourself. Right? Now let's get into it. Now let me explain this very simply. What is Mercury retrograde? Right? First of all, let me explain you what is Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication, logic, trade, technology, contracts, travel, and information. Everything that involves information moving from one place to another, that's Mercury governs. Astrology is also Mercury. Education is also Mercury. Alright. So retrograde means the planet appears to move backward in the sky from our perspective on Earth. It is not actually moving backward, but from where we stand, it looks that way. And when Mercury appears to move backward, all the things Mercury governs also start going sideways. Conversations get misunderstood, contracts develop hidden problems, technology start malfunctioning, travel get delayed. Decision made during this period often turn out to have been made on incomplete or wrong information. Now, what makes June 2026 Mercury retrograde particularly interesting is that it moves through two signs during its backward journey. This gives it two very distinct chapters. The first chapter runs from June 30 to July 7. Mercury is retrograde in Cancer during this phase. Cancer is a water sign. It is emotional, intuitive, and deeply connected to family and the past. And when Mercury moves backward through Cancer, the chaos it creates is primarily emotional. Alright, old family issues resurface. Sensitive conversation goes wrong. People from the past reach out unexpectedly. Your own emotions feel harder to think clearly through. The second chapter runs from July 8 to July 23. Mercury moves back into Gemini, its own sign, and the chaos shift from emotional to logic. Technology starts breaking down, schedules falls apart, logical misunderstandings multiply. Things that seemed simply become surprisingly complicated. So what you have is two very different types of confusion happening back to back. First, your emotional world gets scrambled, then your logical and technical world gets scrambled. All right. Now, here is something else happening at the same time that makes this retrograde period feels extra frustrating. Mars entered Taurus on June 21, and Mars in Taurus is a very action oriented build something moving forward energy. It wants to do something, it wants to do things, all right? It has that energy, fiery energy. It wants to execute, it wants to make progress. But Mercury retrograde is essentially saying that please wait, slow down, review, do not rush forward first. This is what Mercury retrograde is trying to say when Mars will enter Taurus in June 21. So if you have Mars in Taurus pushing you to act and move and execute, and Mercury retrograde is pulling you back and saying everything is getting complicated right now, so this creates what I would describe as pressure cooking feeling. You have the energy to move, you have the motivation to push, but every time you try, something is blocking you, confusing you, or getting stuck. Plans are not flowing that way that they should. Now, the frustration is this that combination creates can be very intense, and the specific way it tends to express itself is through stubbornness and harsh communication. You might be completely right about something, but the way you insist on being right during this period can damage the relationships and burn bridges that took years to build. The guidance here is very simple for every important and very important, because when you feel that pressure cooker frustration rising during that period, pause before you speak. Alright, think first, because the word that comes from the words that comes out during Mercury retrograde in Cancer combined with Mars in Taurus can do lasting damage very quickly, right? So before you speak something, at least think for 2 seconds, not 2 seconds actually, think for 1 minute, that what I will say when I go to that person, what I would say if I make a business deal, what I would say if I have a college seminar, what I would say if I have a pitch to have somewhere. So before you doing that, either write a script by using using anything, your books and all, your preparation, and you can just study that and you can go and do that, or you can think while speaking. All right, but do not speak from your own. Now, there is one more technical thing I need to mention because it adds a extra layer of complexity to this retrograde. From approximately July 4 to July 23, Mercury is also in combustion, meaning it is too close to Sun, and its independent functioning gets suppressed. So during this 20-day window within the retrograde, you do not have just Mercury moving backward, you have Mercury moving backward, and its intellectual function begin is essentially blinded by the sun's heat. This is the period where decision making becomes most unreliable. Your logic feels fogged. Information you receive during this window is more likely to be incomplete or incorrect, and assessment you make about people, situations, or opportunities are more likely to be off than usual. This is not the time to make life altering decisions. If you can push any major decision to after July 23 when Mercury goes direct, do that. All right, now let me give you a very clear list of what to avoid during this 29 June to July 23. Do not sign any major contracts, no business agreements, no legal documents, no financial commitments, no significant size. The Vedic texts are very clear on this. Mercury is the Karaka, the significator of trade and commerce. When Mercury is retrograde, the combust simultaneously. Any contract signed during this period is likely to contain hidden defects or problems that you cannot see at the time but will become more visible later. So wait until after July 23. But do not buy high end electronics or vehicles during this period. Mercury governs technology and logistics. During retrograde, the probability of getting a device or vehicle that has hidden problems is significantly higher than normal. And wait until Mercury is fully clear of its shadow period before making any major technology purchases. Do not launch a new business or a major new professional initiatives. The foundations laid during this Mercury retrograde tends to have a crack that shows up later. If you can delay a major launch to after 23 July 23, you can do that. Next is, do not trust all the information you receive during this period without double checking. Miscommunication is very high during Mercury retrograde. Things get lost in translation. Emails go to wrong people. Important details get left out of conversation. Verify important information from multiple sources before acting on it. All right, and this is specifically and next is like for Cancer transit phase, and this is very important from July 30 to July 7. Sorry, June 30 to July 7. Do not respond to any messages from people from your past, an ex, an old friend, or an old connection that you felt you close felt you close, then close the door on. Mercury retrograde in Cancer creates a very strong pull towards revisiting old emotional chapters. But this pull is not a sign that those chapters should be reopened. It is a test of your boundaries, and the correct response to that is test is not engage with not to engaging with it. Okay, this is the correct thing to do. Now let me tell you which sign are most directly affected on this retrograde and need to be very careful. First is Gemini and Virgo. Gemini and Virgo, your ruling planet is Mercury, and when Mercury goes retrograde, you feel it more personally and more intensely than other signs. Your sense of self can feel uncertain during this period. Your mind may feel foggy and slow down in ways that are unfamiliar and very uncomfortable for the natural sharp of Gemini and Virgo intellect. Physical fatigue can also be higher than usual. The specific guidance for Gemini and Virgo this retrograde is not to make any major professional identity decision. This is not a time to quit your job, dramatically change your career direction, or make any move that fundamentally reshapes how you present yourself professionally. Wait until Mercury is clear and your mind is sharp again. Alright? Now, next we have Cancer. Alright? So, for Cancer, you are the most directly affected sign of this retrograde. Mercury is stationing retrograde directly on your first house, your Lagna. And what this means is that your self perception, your emotional state, and your ability to make objective judgments are all under significant pressure during this period. You will feel more emotions very intensely during this period, and the problems with making important decisions when emotions are this intense is that what feels true and what is actually true can be very different things. So do not make life altering decisions during July and into early August. Wait until clarity returns. All right. Next we have the Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius, this retrograde hits your 7th and 8th house sectors. Partnership disputes and shared financial matters from the past are resurfacing for final resolution. Delays in partnership negotiations are very likely during this period. Be patient and do not force resolutions. They will come, but not on your preferred timeline. Alright, this was for Sagittarius. Next, we have, I think, oh, alright. Next, I think I have Scorpio. Alright, I forgot to bring the image. Anyway, Scorpio, justice for Scorpio. Alright, so let's talk about Scorpio. Alright, so for Scorpio, your 8th house is specifically targeted by this retrograde. Alright, hidden matters that you thought were settled. Hidden matters that you thought were settled may suddenly surface again. Things that were under the surface that you are not fully aware of start becoming visible. So this is actually useful information, even though it may be uncomfortable to receive it. All right. Next we have Pisces. Right. So for Pisces, your 4th house of property and domestic peace is under pressure. Avoid home renovations, moving house, or any major domestic change during this retrograde window. The complications that arises from such decisions during this period are very difficult to, you know, untangle afterward. All right, now let me give you the positive sides of Mercury retrograde. All right, because Mercury retrograde does not have a positive use, it's just a different from what most of the year is for. See, Mercury retrograde is for the rewards, re words. All right, review, revisit, reflect, you know, refine, research, and rest. All right, these are the words for Mercury retrogrades. The rewards. What I said, I forgot. What did I say? Review, revisit, reflect, refine, research, and rest. All right. So if there is a project, suppose that has been started but not finished, this is the time to go back and complete it properly. If there is a plan that you have been executing without stepping back to evaluate it, this is the time to step back and evaluate. If there is a skill or a subject you started learning and then dropped, this is a good time to pick it up again. The retrograde period is also very good for introspection and journaling. Mercury rules the mind, and when it goes backward, it gives your mind permission to look inward rather than constantly looking outward. All right, so use that. If you have been meaning to organize your digital files, sort through your old documents, clean up your inbox, or audit your financial records, this is actually a very productive time for all those things. The backward moving Mercury loves reviewing and organizing what already exists. Alright. Now let me give you the specific practices for protecting yourself during this retrograde. The main mantra is the Budh Beej mantra. Om Brahm Brim Braum Sha Buddhaya Namaha. Chant this 108 times Wednesday morning. I will give the mantra in the description. Wednesday is Mercury's day. Alright, Budhbar we say in Hindi. Now, and chanting this mantra on Wednesday specifically stabilizes the Mercury's energy on your own chart during this retrograde period. It is like sending a signal to Mercury that even though the planet is going through a challenging phases, you are staying aligned with its frequency. Worship Lord Ganesha every Wednesday during this retrograde. Ganesha is the remover of obstacles and is specifically connected to Mercury energy in this Vedic tradition. Even a simple offering of a flower and lamp or chanting Om Gam Ganapate Namaha a few times is enough. The intention and the consistency matters more than elaborate ritual. Use a green pen or green ink for journaling and for writing down your thoughts during this period. Green is Mercury's color, And the practice of writing your frustrations, your confusion, and your unresolved thoughts in green on paper physically grounds the scattered mental energy that Mercury retrograde creates. It gives you a restless mind somewhere to go. But all right, then back up all your important digital files before June 29. This is not astrology, this is just a practical wisdom. Mercury retrograde consistently causes technology problem and data loss. Back up everything up before the retrograde starts, and continue to be curious about trusting cloud storage and cl- continue to be cautious about trusting cloud storage or automatic backups through the entire retrograde period, and even a few days after Mercury goes direct. All right. And the behavioral remedy that I honestly think is the most powerful of all: think before you speak during this period, specifically during the Cancer phase from June 30 to July 7. When emotions are high, the gap between what you feel in the moment and what you actually want to say needs to be wider than usual. Take a breath before responding to anything emotionally charged. Send the email but leave it in draft for 24 hours before sending. All right? Have the conversations but do it calmly rather than, reactively. The phrase I want you to carry through this retrograde is this: that slow down to speed up. The people who slow down, review, reflect, and communicate carefully during these 25 days come out the other side in a much stronger position than the people who kept pushing forward impulsively despite all the warning signs. Alright, now let me tell you about June 27 and June 28 specifically. These 2 days are your final clear window before the retrograde fully stations. Anything important you need to finalize, do it on these 2 days. Any contracts that genuinely cannot wait until July 23, any conversation that needs to happen before the emotional Cancer retrograde period starts, any purchase or professional decision that has a real deadline. Use June 27 and June 28 as your last clear action window. After June 29, shift into review mode. Alright. Now let me close with something I want to genuinely remember about Mercury retrograde is that like universe is not against you during this period. It is asking you to do something different from what you normally do. Alright. Normally we are always moving forward, always planning, always communicating, always executing, and that is good. That is how things get done. But Mercury retrograde is the universe built in pause button. All right, the moment that says before you go further, look back. Before you add more, make sure what you have already built is solid. But before you say more, make sure what you have already said is clear. The people who fight this pause, who insist on moving forward with the same speed and the same volume during this retrograde, are the ones who end up with the most problem afterward. The contracts with hidden flaws, the relationship damaged by words said too fast, the technology purchase that does not work properly. The people who use this pause intentionally, who reviews and reflect and refine during these 25 days, they come out the other side with the clear foundation and the much clearer path forward. Mercury goes direct on July 23, and when it does, the path opens again with all the clarity that Jupiter in Cancer is still providing, but only for those who use the retrograde wisely. So slow down for these 25 days, think carefully, speak gently, and let the reviewing you do now becomes the clarity that powers everything you build after July 23. If you want to make your free Kundli and birth chart, visit the Cosmic Dharma website. Link will be in the description below. And if you want to book a personal consultation with me, you can DM me on Instagram. The link will be in the description below. If this video helped you, please like it, share it with someone who needs to know about this retrograde before it starts. and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Drop your Lagna in the comments below. I want to know which signs are watching this so I can give you more specific guidance in the replies. And until then, slow down, think before you speak, and trust the pause is preparing for you something better. Jai Shri Ram.